Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rip to Shreds, the part of the fictitious dark where we rip The Monkey by Oz Perkins and Stephen King to shreds. I'm Josiah, and I'm here with my co-host, Rick.
Yo, I'm here.
And
So
yeah, what do you got, Rick?
I
What?
was gonna say, so we're talking about the monkey,
Yeah.
uh, a little short novella about a deadly uh toy,
Mm-hmm.
and the monkey is in the book. It is a symbol monkey,
Mm-hmm.
but unfortunately they weren't able to get the rights to that monkey, so they used a little drummer monkey, which I think kind of added more to a little of the suspense of the movie if it was just you know my opinion, but Uh, the monkey. What's where should we start? Should we just start with the summary of it? Get right into it.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess like just a general summary of like the basic plot of the movie. Super simple.
Yeah. So the movie's about. Let's see if I can get the name right. Hal.
Mm-hmm.
Shelburne. I think that's his last name, right?
Yeah.
Hal Shelburne, played by Theo James. He has a lot of death happen around him, and he's like an unsure character where he wants to protect his only son by keeping him away and keeping death at bay. But the one thing that keeps bringing death is his little monkey toy that him and his little brother found through his dad's belongings. Because his dad was a pilot and would bring back little gifts from overseas or around the world. And one of the days, they decided to open up this monkey toy and you know turn the key in the back, and the monkey does his little drumming spin of the drumstick, and then bam, hits it a few times, and then that's it. And the kids think the toy is broken, or that's all it does. Uh, but lo and behold, later on that night, they go to the hibachi dinner with their babysitter, and in a few minutes afterwards, the babysitter's head is missing. Ooh, could it be this deadly monkey? You know. So the rest of the film is them trying to see if this monkey is deadly or if it's just a coincidence of death happening around them. Um, do you want to go through the whole movie, or do you want to just leave it at that? Because
Right.
I think we're gonna give a lot of spoilers talking about the movie
Yeah.
going forward, and
I don't think there's any need to go too in depth. I guess like
yeah,
let's give our general thoughts. I would say like I sat down to this movie not not knowing what to expect.
yeah,
I had maybe seen the teaser, and that's all I wanted to watch. Obviously, I knew it was connected to Stephen King. I read that short story collection, Bag of Bones, like
hmm
15 years ago, so I vaguely remembered the monkey. Um, but I had no conception of what this was going to be. I just knew that it was a feature length version of a shorter story. And so I didn't realize certain things like the brother not, Hal and his brother not being twins and his brother not really being a big part of the novella. And
yeah,
that kind of blew my mind because it's such an essential part of what the film is exploring.
exactly.
And so I think like in a way Oz Perkins he found a way to do the Stephen King story, but taking the zany aspect of Stephen King, less the kind of more dramatic cosmic serious side that
hmm
I know Mike Flanagan excels at. Frank Darabont excels at the drama side, but Oz seems to have taken this pretty wacky. I guess most people who see this movie are probably going to tie it to Final Destination. Uh,
Yeah,
but I think here Oz Perkins kind of takes the basic concept of the monkey, and he just goes off the wall like insane with it. So it was a pleasant surprise to me that this was a horror comedy, a black comedy. Like it was a
definitely.
very dark comedy, And so personally, I had a great time with it. Like,
Yeah.
I know a lot of people probably aren't gonna like this movie, but I myself liked the balance between Perkins' style and this very wacky but disturbing story. And yeah, I quite enjoyed myself. It was a pleasant surprise overall.
Yeah, it was to me a very pleasant surprise because, you know, Oz Perkins, we're always seeing this like, very uh slowly paced films where they
Mm-hmm.
kind of like let you like feel the atmosphere of what's going on in the film, and you're in the movie, where as this film he was bringing you into his comical side, even playing the Uncle Chip,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it just showed like his versatility as a director and a writer. And I felt, even though this doesn't like naturally follow the original novella like you were talking about, but I felt like this was Oz Perkins doing his best Stephen King impression, you know.
mm-hmm.
And it was just wild that I could see this being something that Stephen King could write, with the zaniness, with the dark humor,
Yeah,
uh, with all like the fun, like kind of like trashy characters that are in the movie, with like the priest, kind of be like, oh, whatever, death's whatever. It makes you, accidents happen. It makes you think about it. I don't know, kind of character. Then you have
yeah.
Uncle Chip, who's like the swinger, the dirtbag guy that we're used to seeing like in a Stephen King book.
You get the really
Uh,
over the top bullies who are just so evil that it loops back around to being hilarious. You know,
yeah,
that's just
and then
like,
you have the the whole family trouble with like the missing dad, which is kind of like a Stephen King,
mm-hmm.
uh, trope that he has in his books. Always the search for like the parents and these kids growing up without like any like parental care. It seems like, with Stand By Me being another example. Um, but I feel like Oz Perkins like took it to another stratosphere though too, as well, with like all the kind of like psychedelicness of like when he was like tripping out a bit with the monkey and then the stripper monkey.
The stripper
It was
monkey.
just
Yeah,
it was just such a like fun wild ride. And this is something, I've already said this before when we did Long Legs. I'm a huge Oz Perkins stan,
mm-hmm.
and this made me enjoy his work even more because it showed the versatility in his direction.
Yeah, and it kind of makes me think that a lot of those moments in Long Legs that people thought were silly were probably intentionally so. Um, Given
Yeah.
this movie, like a lot of the certain bits of Nicolas Cage performance that people thought were a bit too much for the tone that movie was going for, I think that was expanded upon in this, where a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of that wry, purposefully dark comedy uh, was perhaps interjected in that film. I'm not claiming to know like every single moment that people point out, but it does feel like maybe some of that was definitely intentional rather than Nick Cage going off the rails.
Hmm.
But yeah, so given that, I guess something to ask is, what was your favorite kill in Da Monkey, and and what was your favorite scene? So like they can be separate.
Uh, I think my favorite kill had to be the Aunt Ida,
Yeah,
and the whole build with that scene, and then the comical aspect of it with her head on fire, passing
yeah.
by the bear with the sunglasses,
Mm-hmm.
and then just ramming straight into the pool. And the way that they set it up slowly, by you thinking, oh, she's gonna walk up the stairs and she falls in, you're like, oh, this is where she dies. Nope. She just
Yeah.
has a bunch of like fishing hooks hanging out of her skin. And then, the slow part of like her like trying to, turn on the tea for the kettle. And that's finally what does her in. And I just like the way that he played with the audience with that scene.
Yeah, it was funny because at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, when the
Spoiler.
two brothers are going to reconcile, uh, he set up like way ahead of time, like minutes before the bowling ball in the trap. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, because at the beginning he imagined dropping the bowling ball on his brother's head.
Yeah.
And so now it's going to drop on his head. So the whole scene, when he was slicking back his hair, I thought the
Yeah.
bowling ball was going to just drop on his head. That's not quite what happened, but that was a similar bit with here. He was kind of playing with the audience where I
Yeah.
literally was like I was like kind of prepping for like the bowling ball to hit his head, and so I started to get like a headache. It was weird. It was like a sympathetic like prepping for the moment,
Yeah,
because the first one was so like gruesome how his face just concaved in.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I literally forgot about the bowling ball for a second. You know,
right,
so they
right.
set up the bit with the bowling ball falling, and I'm like, oh, something's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got it. I got too much in the scene of the brothers reconciling and everything. You know, it's getting better after everybody just falls from the sky. The skydiving bride that hangs herself and
Mm-hmm.
dies. The craziness, and then all of a sudden, bam! Bowling ball to the head. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. I think
I
my
just
favorite scene was the wasps.
yeah,
The probably the favorite kill was the wasps going in and and eating the body from the inside.
yeah,
That was pretty insane. That too was a long like suspenseful thing of should I back up? No, don't back up.
yeah.
You know.
That character was ridiculous.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
But it felt like accurate to Stephen King characters. Like
yeah,
it
it's a
felt
Stephen
like
King character,
he has like this
definitely.
really stupid person who kind of assists the villain,
Yeah,
but this just played it for all it was worth. So
yeah. And the whole, I just loved like the whole like you have one character that takes death super super serious and is afraid of it. Then
hmm
you have like another character who's kind of trying to take over the death, but he's childish and he's still in his own like funeral suit
hmm
and wearing like the old like 90s flame shirt that he built into the suit to make it fit him. It's just awesome. Just like funny characters. And I didn't expect, you know, like I said, with Oz Perkins could go to this extreme like comedy, you know.
the monkey must be vanquished.
Yeah, the monkey must be vanquished. And that's another thing with the whole you know novella is about them trying to get rid of the monkey,
Right.
you know. And whereas this, when they get to the end, spoiler alert, is that they decide, you know, to keep the monkey close and
hmm
keep it from others from turning the key and keeping, you know, almost death closer to them than ever before because, you know, Hal was all about trying to keep death as far away from his family
And
because he was afraid.
yeah, and thematically, I think twofold. Yeah, I think you're right. Is that it's like it's almost like it's a family that has experienced death, but they're not going to like run or hide from it. They're going to process it and embrace it and try to just live a life and connect with people. You know, he's
Yeah.
going to connect with his son. His son's going to connect with him. Um, they're not going to let even this supernatural force keep them apart.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think that is totally like what you're saying is the major theme of the story is about how people deal with death. You know, the the basically what the priest said before. You know, in religion, you know, I can tell you that it's an accident. These
mhm.
things happen all the time. You know, type of deal. And there's people that you know understand. You know, death is part of our life. It's part of our livelihood. Something that we really can't be afraid of and you know we just gotta live each day to the fullest and move forward. But then there's other people that literally are paranoid about death and won't go do anything fun, won't you know go skydiving, where you know type of deal, won't go do any of this stuff, and they're just kind of like obsessed with it but afraid of it. And then you have other people that you know live too carefree and they're like letting death into their life.
Yeah.
And I think that's just basically what the whole movie was about is just how to deal with death and how to like understand that, you know, death does happen randomly. We don't understand why, you know, people die, why people randomly get aneurysms, you know, like the mom or a bowling ball to the head, you know. Those are all things that could randomly happen if you put yourself in those, you know, in the way of, you know, death.
Yeah,
And
Lois said something interesting earlier to the boys in the cemetery. She said everything is an accident and essentially like everything's predetermined and everything is random chance. It's both.
yeah.
And that was another thing the movie kind of played with is the monkey kind of causes your death. It's like you can't escape it. It's like a predetermined thing once the monkey
Mhm.
does what it does, but it is random chance at the same time.
Yeah.
And kind of it seemed like a commentary on. I've been thinking about it recently. I said this. Well, I felt it was profound. I said this thing to Katie the other day where I was like, the only way to have free will is to know that it's all predetermined.
Yeah.
And the idea is like, if you accept there's a lot that you can't control, that's when you can truly make true choices.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't grasp that it's predetermined, it's interesting. So
Yeah.
the movie tackled that, and then also, of course, the generational trauma motif. This time via death.
Yep.
Absent fathers.
Yeah, and kind of like, embracing your family too, and trying to love them because you don't know when they're going to be gone.
Yeah.
Both of Hal's, family members both went out with, out of nowhere. And, even if we take the aspect of the monkey away, most of those deaths are things that could happen just out of nowhere. The electrocution scene, the bowling ball scene, aneurysms, things like that happen. The scene where she catches on fire. I just recently had somebody, close to our family that caught themselves on fire and they passed away. Things like that do happen, and it just shows you that death happens.
Yeah. I think we should discuss some trivia real quick. You brought up at the beginning that there was some rights issues with the symbol monkey that Stephen King had used. Well, it turns out our beloved Walt Disney Company made a copyright on that for Toy Story 3. So Toy Story 3 is the reason why the monkey has drums instead of cymbals. But to your point, Rick, I think Katie pointed out that it was kind of better. Like, I liked the spinning, stick.
It adds more tension to it because you didn't know when he was going to drop his drumstick. Yeah.
So that was one thing. Some other things.
I know the babysitter's name was Annie Wilkes, which was
from
the
Misery.
character from Misery.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then there was, I think, the teacher from the past sequence was named last name Torrance. So Shining reference there. And then it looks like Frank Darabont was going to do a version of the film probably back in 2007, and it would have been his fourth adaptation after Shawshank, Green Mile, and The Mist, but he did not end up doing it.
I would have liked to see what he would have put out.
Yeah.
Probably would have been more of a serious take to the film than what Oz Perkins put out.
Yeah. The film has some moments of gravitas, of like emotion, but it never stays there too long.
No.
Including like even the ending. The ending is just so insane. Like, they literally see the pale horse. They see death, riding by.
And I feel like in that scene, like, the reason why those characters didn't die is because they were respecting life, and death.
Right.
And right before that, we saw the cheerleaders and sticking their heads out of the car, not respecting, life at that point, putting themselves in risk. And I feel like that's why they died.
Right. Yeah. It was a disrespect of death. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just like that whole like ending sequence where it would just went off the rails and everybody was like dying. People coming in out of nowhere, skydiving stuff,
There was a guy with a surfboard through him and the tree. It was like, what?
Where did that come from?
Yeah, I don't know.
And then the flaming baby carriage.
I saw the movie with like a bunch of people over 60. There was like a whole row of like 60-plus-year-old people, and they were chuckling at some of the from the moment that the harpoon gun pulled the the guy's guts out. They were like, "Oh, okay." But they were pretty
Yeah.
locked in through the whole thing. So
Yeah, if the way that it was filmed, it felt like an old-timey horror film.
yeah,
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 especially the beginning scene with the flamethrower killing the monkey, that whole thing just felt like an old-fashioned like maybe like 60s, movie. And that's what I loved about this film is that it didn't take itself too serious.
Mm-mm.
It didn't try to be something that it wasn't trying to be. It was just a zany Stephen King adaptation in the Oz Perkins style.
Yeah, crisp 98 minutes or whatever it was. It
Yeah.
was super super quick. Definitely kept the kills coming. Um,
Yep. And that's usually what the younger crowd want to see. They just want to see how people are going to get dispatched and what kind of gruesome matter. And this movie does it in multiple different ways.
I did see in the theater that I was at there was a poster board for the next Final Destination, not too far from the the
Yeah.
where they were showing the monkey. So I'm sure that will be a point of comparison. Because
Definitely.
I think I've only seen, I don't even remember, probably like 5 of the Final Destinations. But
I think I finally caught up with all of them, but in true fashion of franchises like that, I don't remember what kills are from what movie or the
right,
storyline is anymore.
right,
I've kind of just watch them for just content, just like
yeah,
popcorn content now.
yeah. Um, and
Well,
I think there's one last thing. It's really like brief. I think if you look at this movie, something else that Katie pointed out to me that was like, oh, that's so obvious, is that you have monkey's paw, and then you have people say they've got a monkey on their back.
hmm
So to me, the whole movie was that it was they've got a monkey's paw on their back. You know,
hmm
it's this thing they can't get rid of,
yeah,
but they wished on, and now
now it's there.
yeah.
Now they can't get rid of it. So, with that being the final thing, what is your final rating for the movie before we say goodbye?
You know, I think for what it wants to be, it's an 8 out of 10. For my personal rating, I'll give it a 7 out of 10. But it's exceptionally well executed and very fun. So it's a 3.5 stars. I'm gonna give it.
Nice.
What about you, sir?
I think I'm in the same path. 7.5 to 8. Dying guy divers, and it's just one of those movies that that set out to do what it was going to do. Yeah, it was really well paced. It was fun. Like some of the complaints that I've heard from other people that went with me, it's like it wasn't scary. And I'm like, well, I think you missed the point of the movie.
Yeah,
It's a takeaway from the scariness of death.
yeah,
That was the whole idea of the film. And it's a Stephen King adaptation. Some of Stephen King's books are some of the most over the top comical things that we'll ever read. But I think people thought saw horror and probably saw some of the trailers and they're like, "Oh, this is gonna be scary." No,
yeah. They thought it
you're
was
in the
gonna
wrong
be like
movie.
they thought it was gonna be Annabelle, but it was actually,
Exactly.
it was a parody of that kind of movie.
Yeah, I had one person tell me they're like, "Oh, I thought this was gonna be kind of like Chucky."
Oh yeah,
I was like, "Yeah, I could see that, but no."
it's more Bride of Chucky than
Yeah,
Child's Play.
exactly.
It doesn't take itself too seriously. Yeah, so I give this 7 shotguns in a closet out of 10. All right.
Yeah, I'm right there in the same boat. I think it's like in that 7.5, 8 range.
Yeah.
Very fun movie,
Yeah, absolutely.
and it's on the upper echelon of Os Perkins films, in my opinion.
All right, man. This has been ripped to shreds.
Yep, yep.
We done the monkey. I know we got some stuff on the horizon revolving around certain woodland creatures, certain
Yeah,
cosmic creatures, which I won't
yeah,
reveal yet. But we're working on that. We got some big film projects coming this year,
yeah,
in some in post. some in pre-production. So keep your eye out on the channel. We're going to expand our content type. We're going to expand what we're doing. And we hope that if you are a fan of what we do here, that you will enjoy those. But please, comment what you want to see us do. What did you think of the monkey? Subscribe, share this to Reddit forums, all that good stuff.
Yeah. And if there's any movies that you guys want us to watch and, digest and talk about, we'd love to hear, because we're always looking for new things to watch.
Absolutely. All right. I've been Josiah.
I'm Rick.
This has been Ripped to Shreds on the Fictitious Dark. Sleep well out there.